Hello everybody, and I'd like to welcome you to the September meeting of the Health and Wellbeing Board here in Doncaster. First section is welcome introductions and apologies. We have got apologies for Councillor Sarah Smith, Councillor Lainey May Ball, James Wood and Phil Holmes. I'd also like to introduce Peter Thorpe, who I don't think is in attendance today, but also Kelly Hicks to the meeting. So thank you very much for your attendance. At this moment in time as well, I'd like to go around the room and just offer some introductions. So I'm Councillor Nigel Ball, I'm chairing today's meeting, and what we'll do is we'll start on the back row, working onto the middle row, and then the bottom row, and then we'll go on to the right-hand side, if that's okay. So Vanessa, do you want to take it away?
Good morning, Vanessa Powell-Hoyland, Public Health Lead here at Doncaster Council.
Morning everyone, Louise Robson, Public Health Lead, also at Doncaster Council.
And Simon Azir Forge, also Public Health Lead here at Doncaster Council.
Morning everybody, my name's Ruth Bruce, I'm the Doncaster Place Development Lead.
Morning, Lee Galt, Service Director for Children's Services at the Council.
Claire Henry, Public Health Principal at City of Doncaster Council.
Good morning, Rihanna Nelson, Director or Executive Director of Children, Young People and Families.
Good morning everyone, Annika Latham-Bolton, Service Director, Adult Social Care, Doncaster Council.
Good morning, I'm Rachel Leslie, Director of Public Health at Doncaster Council.
Nikki Greenfield, Public Health Improvement Coordinator at Doncaster Council.
Hannah Bain, Strategic Commissioning Officer, Doncaster Council.
Tony Ullman, Doncaster Culture and Leisure Trust.
Councillor Glynis Smith, Hatfield Ward.
Morning, Lucy Robertshaw, Director of Arts and Health, and I also represent the Health and Social Care Forum.
Morning all, Nabil Al-Sundi, I'm a GP and I am Medical Director for Doncaster at NHS South Yorkshire Integrated Care Board.
Hi, I'm Fan Joel, I am the Chief Operating Officer of Healthwatch.
Hi, I'm Kelly Hickson. I'm representing the voluntary sector in the health role of the Great 8 Priorities, and I'm also from People Focus Group.
Laura Sherburn, Chief Exec, Primary Care Doncaster.
Morning, I'm Anthony Fitzgerald. I'm Executive Place Director for NHS South Yorkshire, and I'm Deputy Chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board.
Hi, I'm Jackie Yates, Transformation Lead Midwife, working in NHS South Yorkshire on maternity and neonatal transformation work, particularly prevention work and equity and equality.
Good morning everyone, I'm Richard Parker, I'm Chief Executive Doncaster and Bassett Law Teaching Hospitals.
Thank you very much for that, everybody. That's great. So welcome everybody today. We are not expecting a fire practice today. If the alarm sounds, please leave the building by way of the fire exit through the doors to the rear of the chamber. When you have left the chamber, proceed down the stairway and exit through the emergency exit on the ground floor. If there is anybody with mobility issues, please wait in the refuge area at the top of the stairs where the emergency evacuation lift is located, and use the intercom situated to the left-hand side of the lift doors to call for assistance. The designated assembly point is in the public square in front of CAST beyond the fountain. I would like to inform any members of the public and press that today's meeting will be visually and audio recorded. By entering the council chamber, you accept that you will be recorded and that your image is retained and broadcast by the council on its website and also on YouTube. If anyone intends to record or film any part of today's meeting, please ensure that this does not disturb the conduct of the meeting and you only focus on recording those people participating in that. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item 2, which is Chair's announcement. At this time, I've got no announcements to make today. And then we'll move on to item 3, which is exclusion of the press and public. There are no items today on the agenda where the press and public are to be excluded. Item 4, declarations of interest, if any. Does anybody have a disclosable pecuniary interest or any other interest declared in relation to the business on today's agenda? If so, please declare it now and complete a declaration form from Caroline Martin in Governance Services. I'm wanting to make a declaration that in terms of Sir John Doncaster, my wife is a director, Brownie Bull. We'll now move on to number 5, public questions. And obviously, it doesn't look as though there's anybody in here wanting to raise any public questions as such today. No? Okay. This is a standing item on the board agendas aimed to provide an opportunity for members of the public to ask a question or to make a statement. Please note that questions or statements should relate to an item of business on the agenda for today's meeting. Are there any elected members or members of the public attending today's meeting who wish to put a question to the board? So I can't see any members of the public. Is there any elected members want to raise any questions? Okay, thank you very much. So we'll now move on to item 6, which is minutes of the meeting of the Health and Wellbeing Board held on the 6th of June 2024. You've all been furnished with the board minutes of the last meeting. They're attached as agenda item 6 of the agenda. The board is asked to consider and approve these as a correct record. Are they approved? Thank you very much. That's fantastic. We'll now move on to item 7, which is the Health and Wellbeing Board Improve the Experience of Ageing session, and these are on pages 7 to 12. This is a verbal update, and I'm going to ask Rachel Leslie to sort of like produce this and facilitate this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the document that you can see today is a product of the strategy development work, which has included data and voice. There was also the subsequent Health and Wellbeing Board development session that happened in June, which focused on the priority to improve the experience of ageing. The document includes some scene setting and the key findings that provide the summary of both the key data around this priority and a synthesis of key voice and experience. We thank our guests and specialists who joined our board session in June to develop the commitments and appropriate actions that meet the role and responsibility of the board, but also the partnership potential that the Health and Wellbeing Board presents. At the June session, we heard about the experience of clinicians in our local hospital and the challenges that they see older people face, but also the opportunities that they see in their roles. We heard about the capability to build on an age-friendly approach in Doncaster and the benefits that we see in working with and through communities and using the voice of our older residents and other residents in Doncaster. As part of this, the board wants to make the commitment with NHS organisations to make strategic changes to how we focus on prevention and preventative support for older people. We also want to explore the remaining evidence and data-driven approaches for living well in later life. Today, we want to commit to what's next over the life of the new Health and Wellbeing Board strategy, which has been approved by Cabinet and soon to be to go to full council. The board wants to take the opportunity to guide and support the preventative opportunities to help people in Doncaster to age well. Through the voice of older people and on their own terms, we want to develop a new approach to living well in later life. The recommendations of the document present a framework, a nationally accepted framework called Joining the Dots, and a series of I statements that describe I'm still me. These are included in the document, and the approaches considered around considering them as 4 focus areas for the board. Finally, the recommendations for Health and Wellbeing Board today, there are 4 of them, but there's also an ask as well. The first one is to accept the Joining the Dots I statements in principle and to work to ensure that they explicitly inform the organisational and partnership improvement plans and activities. This will require mechanisms for older people to co-design, co-produce and co-evaluate improvements in both organisations and in our partnerships. The second one is to support the establishment of a representative, age-friendly resident forum. This will help us to connect and amplify the voices of Doncaster's older people throughout the life of our health and wellbeing strategy. And then the last one is to agree that our Health and Wellbeing Board receives periodic reports on the progress to improve the experience of older people in Doncaster against those system touch points, and that this can be and should be presented in conjunction with older people who have that lived experience, and it reflects their input into the co-design, co-production and co-evaluation. Where it's not possible for them to co-present, we'll ensure that their voices are represented through this. The final ask is for 3 co-sponsors. I believe that we have 1 volunteer already in Phil Holmes, who's our Director of Health, Wellbeing and Culture, but would like to invite either recommendations or volunteers for an additional 2 co-sponsor roles, and that will provide the Health and Wellbeing Board with senior coordination of the actions listed above. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Obviously, in terms of the recommendations, it's based around getting those additional 2 sponsors. But before we open up to that and having that discussion around it, it'd be really useful if anybody's got any comments, queries, or any questions around this verbal report. Does anybody want to say anything? Anthony.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Rachel, for this report, which I think is an accurate reflection of the conversations that we had at the last workshop, and I think is a real positive. I do like the I statements. Hard to disagree with any of those, is it? So I'm glad we've put them in that fashion. I'm also really supportive of resident forum, because that shows the commitment that we've had in previous health and wellbeing boards around user engagement, hasn't it? So I'm really happy to see that there. I felt at the workshop we really got into a little bit of the how, and what I was particularly encouraged to see was the sort of clinicians leading those conversations and the linkages that I think we need to improve upon. So I support the co-sponsors of the themes, but I don't want us to forget that clinical voice in there that can really drive the how and some momentum behind this. And so, Nabil, I know we've had that conversation, but also some of Richard's clinicians, some at Ardash as well. So I wouldn't want that lost in whatever mechanisms we put together to drive this through.
So to accompany this, we would see that this would form almost an appendix of the Health and Wellbeing Board strategy, our way of doing things. Additionally, there will be a business plan which will incorporate a forward plan for the board as well. So from that, we would populate what the board wants to hear, what those reports would be over that periodic term, and that we would expect to include that clinician voice alongside our resident voice as well. So the opportunity to do that is to plan through our forward plan for the life of the strategy.
Thank you.
Glynis?
Yeah, I'm very conscious that it's sometimes difficult to get the voice of our older generation, if you like, and I suppose I should be including myself in that group, although I'm not going to. However, one of the best things we ever did as a group of Hatfield councillors was to follow, to go before a bingo session in one of our local community centres, which is hugely well attended. And the same community centre also has, as I know we have all over Doncaster, luncheon clubs. And you've only got to go to these wonderful occasions, because I get the feeling when I talk to older people that a lot of them go out very little, and they'll tell you that there isn't very much, that they can attend. And so it's lovely to see when they do attend the luncheon club, and they've obviously made a real effort because, they're meeting other people. And, my kind of thought is that these are the places, because we get more questions, I'm here to tell you, preceding the bingo session, and more people come over to us and actually give us some real issues that they're trying to deal with, sometimes over a very long period of time. And I suppose it's about going to where people are rather than putting something out there and saying, we need support with this, or can you answer these questions? Because when you're actually in the place where they are, they're much more likely to give you information and tell you things that they might not answer on a questionnaire.
Yes, right.
I'm just going to nod to Nikki, who's behind me as well, and she might want to come in on some of the methods that we might be approaching. But Just on the first point that you made about not associating yourself as an older person, I really want people in Doncaster to look forward to their older age, however they define it, and want to proudly state that they are an older person in Doncaster and not see that as a not a good thing. I've pointed to Nikki behind me. She might want to come in on some of the examples, but we've as part of the approach already, we've delivered a questionnaire for Ageing Well in Doncaster, which has had a reasonably good response, and we will do all of the things that I know you always tell us we must do, and we will do about how representative that is of our Doncaster population. So have we got the different cultures, have we got the different languages, have we got older people that do all the different crazy and wild things that some older people do, as well as what might be in your head as a picture of an older person. So Nikki, I don't know if you want to add to some of that too.
Can I just first, I'm here to tell you, Rachel, that I'm having a ball, and I celebrate a very big birthday this year, and I have never had such a good time. I didn't retire till probably long after most other people did, because I absolutely loved the job that I did. But I'm, seriously enjoying this stage of my life and having a ball. And I wish it could be like that for other people.
Thank you. It's good to hear. So Hannah and I have been out to some groups in Doncaster already just to discuss what they would like to see from an older person's forum. So we've got sort of a bit of an idea of what people are telling us. So it's looking at the minute, and we've still got a bit of work to do, that people want kind of different opportunities to get involved and to have their say. So whether that's through different questionnaires and surveys, people going along to their groups, as you say, or having like an ambassador that or a volunteer that goes from their group to another group to share their voice. But obviously they're the people that are attending the groups already, but we're also conscious that there are people that aren't attending groups, that we need to understand how we reach those people so that their voices can be heard as well. So the way I'm seeing it at the minute is it's kind of like a bit of a hub and spoke model, where you've got different things feeding into this older person's forum. So you've got your professional voice as well as your older adult voice, and then you've got your ambassadors as well that are sort of collecting that insight in communities and feeding back. Obviously we've got the Well Doncaster team that are out and about getting lots of insight from residents, so I'd hope that they could even feed into that. So it's just how we all collate the information that's out there, because I feel like we're all going out and engaging on our own, whereas it'd be good to have a forum that can collect all of that and then share it back out and share that knowledge wider, really. I don't know if there's anything that I've missed off that, but yeah, we are going out to groups, so we are doing that.
Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Rachel. My question really is about the co-sponsors, in terms of when you look to the key themes, they sort of break down into three broad areas. One is sort of the social adult, social care, health and well-being aspect. One is mental health, and one is acute services, and acute services come twice. So the reality of that is, if we ask for co-sponsors, and I don't know if you're looking for people in this room or you're looking for wider engagement, the questions will be, what's the time commitment, what's the resources, and what we're hoping to achieve? Because I would imagine that based upon it, you'd probably like someone from acute care, and we then have to ask the question of who the right person is. So is there any sort of understanding of the answer to those questions so that I can ask?
Sure. So it's a new approach. So it would be existing members of the Health and Wellbeing Board rather than going wider. And as a group of 3 co-sponsors, it would be that coordination of the activities and actions, and also that support with populating our forward plan and our plan against that strategy. It's probably not one to define our 3 today, because we've got a number of apologies who might be interested in that role, and it would be a newer way for the board to work as well. But it's about having that ownership around the 3 areas. We would see that we would have the same for the other 2 priorities as well: the closing the gap for children and young people and women, and also for the healthy places to live, grow and play. So there are other opportunities for other board members around the other priorities as well. In terms of ask of time commitment, we can, if it would be helpful, have a bit of a summary of what the role ask is, and we could do that in conjunction with potentially interested sponsors as well. So it's a good match to existing roles and to time commitments too.
Dave.
Morning everyone, Councillor David Nevitt from Edenthorpe and Kirksandall Ward. It's good to hear that you're not falling into the trap of it's on the website, it's on social media. It's great because there's a lot of people who do not and will not engage in that sort of media. So it's a case of how do you reach those people who are sat in their own homes, doing what they want to do, enjoying life to their maximum. I think you're missing a trick here with parish councils and local churches. They put newsletters out on a regular basis. If you can add into their newsletter something which will say, we're here on this day, or go and find this person, or whatever, there's this information that can get out to a lot more people. So just a suggestion as to an extra few groups that you could engage with. Because your parish councils, there's about 20 in Doncaster area, and there are a lot of people who can be impacted by this. So it's just a thought, and hopefully you can do something with that.
Yeah, absolutely recognise and understand how people in an older age group category might be disproportionately affected by the ability to have confidence or access to digital and online options. I think just from this session this morning and the sharing of lots of different ideas to engage and get residents to be part of that forum, parish councils is an excellent idea, and hopefully Nikki has scribbled that down behind me as well. But yeah, welcome from any other members of the board as well, any other suggestions on where we could source and make those relationships with older people to be part of that forum. Thank you.
So I think there's some fair points to be made here. I mean, what I will say is, in terms of the three sponsors, it would be really useful if we had that breakdown in terms of commitment and what activities are needed at that point. I mean, that would be useful. I mean, I can't help thinking, I mean, some of the things that have been discussed, and I think the points are all valid. They really are, because it's such a mammoth task. But looking at it, it's about whether we're looking at internal services or, I mean, obviously members of Health and Wellbeing Board, but whether it's internal services or external. And I think it's good to get that mix, particularly around those three sponsors. I can't help but wonder how much of a role some internal services will be needed on this, particularly through Thrive model, because you're looking at, you know, some of the wider determinants that we have, particularly in our, shall we say, most deprived communities, and we're looking at, you know, the issues around the environment, and we're looking at place, and we know that certain, you know, mature people will not feel comfortable going out and combating social isolation themselves because of the environment that they live in, for whatever reason. So I think I'd like to see some buy-in from place within the council for this, to sort of like look at some of those issues that stops people actually going out there, because it's about their perceptions of place, and it's about their perceptions of the environment that they live in, that sometimes stop people becoming more, you know, in twin with some of the activities that are going off. I think that, you know, if we're going to look to facilitate and empower mature people to sort of like become more in twin with their own well-being, what they need to do is they need to think about, obviously, them being able to sort of like take place in activities and things like that. So, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, I'm guessing, Rachel, that are you wanting the three sponsors nailing down today, or are you wanting to sort of like look at maybe that coming after the meeting as such?
I think we've got a small number of apologies today from key persons, so I think our best approach would be to pick up after this meeting. So we've definitely got Phil as our first sponsor, and then any other people who are potentially interested will follow up by email to gather those interested persons. And if we do need a process in place to select from there to get the right spread across different areas and functions, then we'll do it in that way.
No, that's fantastic, and I'm not wanting to buttonhole anybody in particular, but we know that we've got issues. We know we've got place issues, but also there may be, and Chris is in the room, and I'm not going to pinpoint him at all. I'm not pointing, but what I'm trying to say is that there's probably a role there to play for St Ledger Owns, you know what I mean, in terms of some of the estates that we have. Because we know that within those estates, you have estate workers going out there, you know, trying to combat social isolation, and there may be something there that can be done. So if you're happy to defer that to a future meeting, that would be good. Is that okay, Rachel? Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. And then what we'll probably do at the next Health and Wellbeing Board is we'll present the names of the sponsors that we've got against this particular priority.
So, still on item 7, the board is asked to agree and endorse the position statement, agree and to endorse 3 sponsors for the area of focus to be confirmed, and where applicable take action on the commitments and report back progress at the Health and Wellbeing Board in January 2025. Is that agreed? Okay, thank you everybody. Fantastic. We'll now move on to item 8, which is around the Better Care Fund Plan 13 to 26. It's basically just for noting this to some extent. You've obviously got a report in your packs, and it's there to be agreed as such. So the board is asked to acknowledge the end of the year Better Care Fund from 2023-24 activity reporting, including income expenditure at the end, actual identified challenges, achievements and support needs, BCF planning requirements and financial allocations for 2024, and acknowledge the BCF plan and acknowledge the financial allocations for the planning period 23 to 25. Is that agreed by everybody? Richard?
I agree with the principal, Chair, but I think it would be remiss of me not to raise the significant operational financial challenges that the acute sector has got within the ICB, and Anthony's obviously in the room and can comment. And within that, some of our assumptions around the number of acute beds we will need now and into the winter are based upon flow in and out of hospital. So the delivery of the Better Care Fund objectives for this year are probably more critical than in any year that I can remember. And so what we would want to be really, really clear on is that the Better Care Fund is delivering against its objectives, which is to provide the flow in and out of hospital, and that if there is any slippage at all on any of the lines, that there is an open, transparent and full discussion about what the priorities will be through winter. Because I can't, underestimate how challenging this winter may be if we can't get flow in and out of the acute sector.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm sure we're going to be mindful in terms of the allocations. Anthony?
Yeah, so good point. It is a very challenging environment that we're going into, and that's before winter. So I completely agree with what Richard says. I think we need to look at everything, and I know we already are. Those officers are looking at what is invested in terms of the Better Care Fund, and we need to be absolutely certain that it's prioritised in the right area, that we can evaluate it accordingly, and if we need to have a look at how that's invested going into winter, we will do. I'll take that through the Urgent Emergency Care Board Chair, and we're having that conversation on Friday.
So that's really good, Anthony. So we're confident that we've got mechanisms in place to monitor this and to make sure that it's working well, to obviously support Richard, obviously in acute care. Is that the case, yeah?
It is, and we're always challenging ourselves about whether we're investing in the right areas. As Richard says, it's just more crucial than ever. Bearing in mind the situation that we have a high occupancy rate at the hospital. We do tend to be slightly outliers in terms of some of our residents in hospital beds with outer criteria to reside. We do have some issues with flow, and that's exactly what the Better Care Fund should be looking at in terms of investment in transformation. So we've got the right forums to have those conversations. It's just a right challenge from Richard that will make sure we do.
Okay, thank you for that. So obviously we acknowledge the points that's been made. Is the report agreed, and do we accept it? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. It's now bang on 9:30. What I'm suggesting we do is we we basically have a 5-10 minute break, and then we'll move back into the room for the workshop session, if that's okay with everybody. Yeah? Yeah, I'll formally close the meeting now. Thank you very much for your attendance.